Hi, everyone. It's Professor Z. I just want to do a brief overview of the film analysis paper. Just want to talk about how to approach it and what your resources are. So, your first step, obviously, is to watch the film. I mention that because some people may have missed class, so you're going to have to find a way to see the movie. You can rent it, I believe, through Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix or not. Um, if you're having trouble finding a way to see it, email me and we can try and figure out. I can try and help you figure out what your options are. When you watch the film, take a lot of notes. You're very likely to forget specifics, and you need specifics for your paper. So if you take notes and you take specific notes, you're going to have them to incorporate into the paper. Okay. So when I'm watching a film that I know I'm going to have to write about, I take really detailed notes. Like I'm basically writing down everything that I see happen. Okay. And I do that also because then going back over them afterwards, I might see connections. I might be like, oh, look, like I hadn't realized that this thing that happens 15 minutes into the film is similar to this other thing that happens an hour later. So it can help you to generate ideas too. After you watch the film, you need some tools to help you reflect on it and do your analysis. So last week, I gave you a film analysis packet, and that had tons of questions in it. And those can help you to explore your response to the film. You clearly don't have to respond to every question in the packet. There's 5 or 7 or 8 pages, I can't remember exactly, full of questions. And but going through them can help you to figure out what's of interest to you and what you want to focus on. So go through the packet, and you just can start kind of free writing your responses to some of the questions, and you'll probably pretty quickly figure out what you'd like to focus on. And the questions can help you to have an aha moment where you're like, oh, like that's what I want to write about. So that's why I recommend going through the questions. They'll really help you kind of settle down and get focused. And I had also put some questions on the board in class that can also really help you to sort of figure out like what is important to you about the film. I want you to write about what you're interested in and what struck you about the film. If what was interesting to you or what you thought of the film was really different than what we discussed in class, that's totally fine. I don't want you to feel like you have to change based on what we discussed. So use those tools to help you reflect. Once you've done your reflection, it's time to start getting ready to write. So read over the assignment, take a look at the sample essay that I gave you in class last week, and look at the essay structure guides. All of this stuff is also on Canvas, and the essay structure guides in particular, I think I may not have given those to you in the packet, so they are on Canvas, and I'm going to show them to you in this video. But keep in mind what your task is, right? You've got to analyze the film. What's the film about? And the film is obviously about a lot of things, and I'm not asking you to give me a comprehensive, dissertation about the film. You can focus on one thing, no matter how big or small it is, and write in detail about that thing. And what you're trying to do is explain why you believe that, like why you think that's what the film is about, or one of the things that the film is about, and how the filmmaker communicated that to you. And that's where you could get into talking about technique, like how they use lighting, how they use sound, how they used camera, how they use those different elements. And what I put here as bullet points are just some examples of thesis statements for this type of paper. The first one is similar to kind of like, this is one thing that I think about when I see the film. This was something I mentioned in class. I said that I feel like the film challenges media stereotypes of African American families because it portrays an involved father, an indifferent mother. Word choice might not be perfect there, but the point is she has some reservation. She feels like she's always a mom to everyone, right? And a gay daughter. So, that's not what we usually see on TV when we see African American families. So one can make an argument that the film is challenging those stereotypes that we find in the media. My thesis here is probably going to lend to me doing a paragraph about the father, a paragraph about the mother, and a paragraph about the daughter. Each one of those paragraphs is going to have specific evidence along with explanations of how that evidence supports my claim. Okay. Now, I gave you a couple other examples here too. Say I didn't want to focus on characters. Say I want to focus on the setting, right? Well, Quest shows the resilience of a North Philadelphia community as they battle gun violence, health crises, and their inner demons. In this sense, I could talk about multiple characters in each paragraph. I could talk about the people who are impacted by gun violence, by health crises, or by their demons. And I guess in a sense, this one still focuses on character, even though it talks about North Philadelphia. But I could also change it and talk about how the film, how it presents North Philadelphia, which is something else we touched on in class. A totally different direction. Quest explores the power of music to heal people. That's not what the whole film is about, but there's certainly a lot of people in the film, music plays a really important role in their life. So you could explore that simply, Now, I recommend you explore none of these three because these are just things that I think, I think you all have your own thoughts and I want you to pursue your own thoughts about the film. Okay. So, one thing you can do is look through the list on pages 2 and 3 of the packet where it lists themes, and it has an incomplete list of subjects that Quest explores, and you might think about how Quest explores any of those subjects. You also, just from these 5 questions here, you may have come up with like what you think the film is about or what you think the message was of the film. So if you have that, that's it. Go for that. Okay. And so once you kind of have your direction of what you think you're going to do, then it's time to draft your essay. And I gave you an optional assignment where I'm going to put a Dropbox on Canvas, and if you put your first draft in there before the deadline, I'll provide you feedback so that you can revise it before the final due date. I'm not telling you the due date on here just because different classes will see this, so the due date will be different for each class. But that's an overview of the paper. And I just want to show you a couple other of the documents that are going to be useful for you. Don't mind my frightening desktop. Okay, so first off, the prompt, right, is, this assignment is designed to prepare you to write interpretive papers in your gen ed classes and major coursework. And here is where I detail what the task is. Analyze the thematic content. In other words, what's the film about? So, to do this, I say, identify a theme in the film and explain how the filmmakers convey the theme through the use of the literary elements and or film techniques. You're not required to do both. You may find it helpful to use both. You may not. And I give you a brief outline of what the paper should look like here structurally. Okay. So that is what you're being asked to do. Okay. And I want to show you a little bit, I want to go into a little more detail about structure of the paper. So first off, this is a pretty simplified template to help you think about the structure of the paper. I'm going to follow this up by showing you a more involved template. But here's a theme of analysis template for like a paragraph, right? But you could expand this to a paper, right? And, the theme of Quest is, and you say what the theme is, right? And then you choose basically 3 events within the film that show that theme, right? So one event that shows that theme is, and you explain what it is. And then you explain how it does it or why it does it. This shows the theme because, and you explain it, right? Another place in the story that supports this theme is, in this theme scene, the theme is shown because you explain it, right? And as you can see, conclusion, right? So this, I think, does this have only 2? Yeah, this shows it with like 2 supporting details. But the point is you could expand this, right? Where you have, you can have 1 paragraph, you could have 3 scenes, 1 paragraph about each of those scenes, right? Where you explain how that scene is evidence of the theme that you see as being present in the film, okay? And you can find this document on Canvas, but it's just a simplified way of thinking of what you're trying to do. Go away. All right. So the last document that I want to show you is the more detailed analysis structure. So this kind of outlines the entire paper for you, okay? It shows you what you should do in an introduction, right? Creative opening or hook. And it gives you the different options, which we've sort of gone over, though they can be a little different in the humanities, such as starting with like a universal idea, okay? Or starting with dialogue from two characters in the film. But these are different strategies for starting the paper, okay? And, you know, you would always end that intro with your thesis. And for you, it's going to be like basically stating like what you think the theme is of the work and why you think that. And then you have your body paragraphs, right? And so this shows you structure for the body paragraph, okay? Topic sentence, lead into your first piece of, you know, textual evidence where you explain something from the film, you comment on it, you transition to your next piece of evidence, you comment on it, you conclude. You know, like if you have two strong pieces of evidence, that may be enough. You may have three, you know, you can expand on this structure, but it tells you like what you should be doing in a good body paragraph. And this document also has an example of what that looks like. You know, it gives you a sample topic sentence and it shows you how they use textual evidence and how they comment on the textual evidence. So you can look at this and carefully review it to help you to understand how to make those moves in your own work, okay? And it shows you how you would do your transitions. And it also then shows you what you might want to do in the conclusion, okay? So, and if I recall correctly, let's see, this one also has an entire, like a high school sample paper that looks at like symbolism in Lord of the Flies. What can be useful about this paper, I'm not asking you to read it, you don't need to, but you can if you'd like, is you can just see structurally how they develop a paragraph with a topic sentence, supporting detail, and commentary on the detail, okay? So that's another resource that you have. And then one other thing that you have is there's a sample essay, right? Which I gave you. And it's about a film called His Girl Friday, which is an older film. And I gave you this just so you could see, this is not for an assignment for my class. This is a paper that was done in like an upper level film class. So I don't think that your papers will spend as much time talking about the technical aspects of the film. You'll notice that, you know, she gets really into breaking down scenes and talking about how the shots are composed, like what we're seeing and stuff like that. So she does a lot more of that than I would expect you to do. So don't look at this and go like, oh, I can't do that. Like where it says, you know, like it talks about who's the focal point in a shot and how it starts with an establishing long shot and then, you know, moves on to the next one. I don't necessarily expect you to do that sort of work, but I do think that this paper could be useful just to see how somebody writes about a film from, you know, somebody who has a lot of knowledge about film and about the genre. You could see how they do it. And, you know, still you should be able to look at this and see structurally what she's doing in each paragraph and how her paragraphs hold together. Okay. So it's another resource for you. Okay. So I hope that this is helpful in getting you going on the paper. Everything is on Canvas. If you missed class for weeks 10 and week 11, we, you know, if you look in the Canvas modules, you'll find everything that I handed out in those two classes. And if you have questions, obviously, just get in touch with me. All right. Good luck.